In the United States, the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, they're basically like broadcast God. So when the chair of the FCC looks squarely at the ABC network and says,
I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way.
He's basically suggesting, as he did on that podcast, I have the power to end you and the people who run your content. Or, in real terms, to revoke your broadcast licenses. Because he was really upset about this.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
That was part of Jimmy Kimmel's opening monologue on Monday after conservative podcaster Charlie Kirk was assassinated the week before. He was killed in broad daylight in front of a huge crowd of college students, and Jimmy Kimmel's take on it got him pulled off the air.
The ABC Television Network is pulling Jimmy Kimmel Live off the air for the foreseeable future.
Outrage from some saying this is caving to political pressure and an assault on free speech.
Let's take a closer look at what he said, but also, long before he said it, how there has been a long-running campaign to force the likes of Jimmy Kimmel out of late-night TV. And in the end, the FCC didn't actually have to do much of anything to get exactly what it wanted.
It'd be a shame what happened to your nice network if you didn't do what Brandon Carr wants. And if you don't do what we want, bad things can happen to you.
So Kimmel's monologue, the part of it that has to do with Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump and Trump's followers, it goes on for a few minutes. Typical late night fare, questioning whether Trump actually cares about his friend who's been killed.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House.
This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish.
Like I said, typical late night fare, picking moments, poking fun, which is somewhere between strikingly funny and deeply insensitive. But not actually the thing that got Kimmel into the most trouble. The real outrage came from what we played for you at the very start.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
And what's controversial about this statement is how you interpret that phrase, the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them. That last part, is he implying that the shooter is hardcore MAGA with the words one of them? Or is the statement more about MAGA itself and how that movement is trying to shift blame for the shooting to anything other than one of them?
Ladies and gentlemen, here to speak authoritatively on this issue is the chairman of the FCC, Brendan Carr, joining us live now.
Yes, the chair of the FCC appeared on a right-wing podcast called The Benny Show to talk about what Kimmel said. And immediately after being introduced, he does two things. He explains how much he admired Charlie Kirk, quickly followed by how disgusted he is with Jimmy Kimmel.
I think I was going to join everything that you've been saying about Charlie, his life, an amazing man. You know, when you look at the conduct that has taken place by Jimmy Kimmel, it appears to be some of the sickest conduct possible.
But then he goes one important step further.
What was upsetting, according to Carr, is that in light of what we learned on Tuesday, that idea that the suspect, Tyler Robinson, was kind of more to the right or a MAGA is incorrect, according to current information from what we've heard from the FBI. In light of that information, that statement that Kimmel said is not accurate.
He then goes on to imply that the FCC can punish the TV stations that broadcast Kimmel's content, and in some cases, Kimmel's network, ABC, directly.
And they have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
Let me show you what he means. To understand the scope of the FCC's power, you really have to understand how all the players in this story relate to each other. The center of everything is, of course, Jimmy Kimmel and his show, Jimmy Kimmel Live. His network is ABC. They help make and distribute the show, and ABC is owned by Disney. So when you read news articles about how Disney pulled Jimmy Kimmel off the air and how they're facing backlash for the decision, that's why. But in most cases, the FCC doesn't actually issue a broadcast license directly to the ABC network. Instead, it issues licenses to the hundreds of individual television stations that, in this case, run ABC content, the affiliates. And these are owned by big companies like Nexstar Media, which is one of the biggest. It's on this level of TV station owners the FCC wields real power.
Even a company as big as Disney operates at the pleasure of the FCC. And so there are terms of those licenses. And if the FCC revoked that license, they are saying, in effect, you no longer have the right to share your material and broadcast. So that is a massively powerful, hammer that they can wave over the heads of these corporations.
So later that same day, after FCC Chair Brendan Carr makes his views on Kimmel known,
I mean, obviously, look, there's calls for Kimmel to be fired. I think you could certainly see a path forward for suspension over this. And again, the FCC is going to have remedies that we could look at. And again, we may ultimately be called to be a judge on that.
What followed from that veiled threat was a statement from Nexstar Media, which likely understood how difficult life could become if the FCC were to perceive it as an enemy. It announced its ABC affiliates will preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live indefinitely for the foreseeable future, because the show is simply not in the public interest at the current time. That sent shockwaves through the ABC empire.
You take a look at Nexstar, the largest affiliate network in America right now. They own 39% of the market.
Within minutes, a spokesperson for ABC itself would give the media a 7-word statement. Jimmy Kimmel Live will be preempted indefinitely. The show was being yanked off air nationwide.
Kimmel suggested that the alleged killer of Charlie Kirk might have been a pro-Trump Republican.
This is just the latest chapter in Donald Trump's ongoing campaign to crack down on free speech.
What has this suspension done? It has reinforced the view that the power of this administration is so profound that the executives of ABC blinked, if you will. There was a chilling effect, and they were scared about the retribution.
The FCC's position is that Kimmel's comments may very well have breached a condition of license, which is that even a comedy program is held to a certain standard of truth.
We have a rule on the book that interprets a public interest standard that says news distortion is something that is prohibited.
And he's not wrong here. There are a few ways in which the FCC has authority over content, and news distortion is certainly one of them, but only if it can be proven that some broadcaster has deliberately distorted a factual news report. Expressions of opinion or errors stemming from mistakes are not actionable. This makes for a very narrow lane in which the FCC could, in theory, revoke an ABC affiliate's license, for example, because it's important to note the timing of Kimmel's monologue. It was shot and broadcast before the FBI announced that they had caught Tyler Robinson. So Kimmel and ABC might argue he couldn't have known one way or the other whether the shooter was die-hard MAGA. He did turn out to be wrong about that, if that's even what he meant to convey. But that's not actionable, according to the FCC's own rules.
The FCC's mandate is not a content mandate, right? They are not the content police. Historically, we've seen the FCC take a pretty lenient regulatory approach when it comes to content, again, unless we're talking about sexually explicit content.
What Jimmy Kimmel said was not indecent or obscene. It was perhaps offensive and disagreeable, but again, that's most of our information environment is offensive and disagreeable.
To see the FCC and the chair of the FCC, no less, make comments about the appropriateness of late night comedy, I think we're venturing into new territory here.
So another fact that we can consider in deciphering why the FCC made this a fight is the question of who the chair, Brendan Carr, actually is.
It's very safe to say Brendan Carr is a fervent Trump supporter. He contributed a chapter to the Project 2025 blueprint, which has been used to kind of tilt Washington further to the right.
Let me show you a photo where I think the details matter. This was taken just this past April. On the right is Brendan Carr. On his lapel is a pin that looks like the profile of Donald Trump, because that's exactly what it is. I'm not sure I've ever seen him wear it since, but if nothing else, it hints at an allegiance to Trump, who, as it turns out, was the one who appointed Brendan Carr head of the FCC, and Carr knows Trump's position on late night talk.
Trump appreciated the dinner. He said, "Thank you, King Charles, Queen Latifah, Lord Farquaad, and Lady Gaga. Thank you very much."
No one came to Trump's big, stupid birthday parade.
Trump's always been addled. He's always been weird, but I think his brain's starting to crack even more than it already has.
Ooh, Donald Trump, the first recipient of the Nobel Prize Variety Pack. Ooh.
Colbert has no talent. He's got no talent. Fallon has no talent. Kimmel has no talent.
Donald Trump has a very adversarial relationship with the media. He routinely denigrates reporters from mainstream networks.
NBC fake news. Okay. NBC's one of the worst. Oh, fake news, CNN?
Here, I'll hold it.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Wait till you hear this question.
He sued CBS over a 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris that he believed was edited unfairly. He sued ABC over a potentially defamatory misstatement of facts on air about a woman accusing Trump of rape. And when CBS canceled Stephen Colbert's late night show, Trump reveled in the news, predicting, "I hear Jimmy Kimmel is next."
This president and his administration's adversarial relationship with the press is unprecedented. Trump has, as a sitting president, launched lawsuits against major news organizations. These kinds of defamation lawsuits and other threats against the press represent a weaponization of the law that is designed to silence critics. It's designed to chill freedom of expression.
But there's one other question worth asking here, and that is, why did ABC's allies, its affiliates, capitulate so quickly?
All of these companies are trying to change and adapt. A lot of that means the bigger fish gobbling up the smaller fish.
Nexstar's proposed merger with media and marketing firm Tegna is worth somewhere around $6 billion US. That merger needs FCC approval because the resulting mega company would be far bigger than current rules allow. So the FCC would actually even need to change the existing rules so that the deal could go through. But luckily for Nexstar, writes the Washington Post, FCC Chairman Brendan Carr has signaled he's open to ending arcane artificial limits on station ownership.
Because these companies are so invested in not upsetting the FCC so that in the future they can get approval, they went ahead and decided not to air the show on their own accord.
And that's the worst thing that is coming out of this Jimmy Kimmel suspension. It's telling the whole world, not just people in the United States, if you don't say something that is complimentary about President Trump, and you say something that is humorous or derogatory, there could be consequences.
Ultimately, those who support the move to axe Kimmel say this isn't cancel culture, it's
consequence culture. It isn't censorship, it's accountability.
For its part, the FCC, which didn't publicly have to do much more than signal its displeasure to get what it wanted, it says, I hope that other broadcasters follow Nexstar's lead. And Donald Trump, he's already signaling who he thinks should get cut next. That leaves Jimmy and Seth, he wrote on Truth Social, referring to NBC's most prominent late-night hosts. The ratings are also horrible. Do it, NBC. And signed, of course, President Donald J. Trump.